Well, good morning everybody. It's the Friday the 7th of June today. The weather looks a bit perkier this morning. It has been a little bit overcast and cooler this week. The forecast was for very good warm weather. It's actually been good but not fantastic. The plants are still growing on quite quickly though. You can see these Pilgrim are getting up the wires, up the strings quite nicely now. And if we have a quick look at our little trial here we were doing with the piece of string on the other strings there, you can see that the plants have gone way past that initial notch and are now some 30 centimeters further on. So in just a week we've put on 37 centimeters on this plant, and this plant's probably a little bit backward compared to the others as well, so the others have probably been shooting on a fair old rate there. That's just a quick indication of what these plants can do. Given the right conditions, they'd have probably shot on even faster than that, so they do grow very quickly at this time of the year. I think the most striking effect of the spray there is in the target here, and you can see that the bottom has died out quite significantly. It's very interesting that these plants, if they get overcrowded, they won't produce cones. So they need to be thinned out like this to give them enough light. They're very light sensitive. In fact, they only grow in countries where there's a good 13 to 16 hours a day, 13 to 18 hours a day probably, hours of sunshine in the peak summer period, peak growing time. And that's what we hopefully achieve here in the UK during the summer. We don't get a lot of sunshine, but there is a lot of light. And you can see down in the bottom here where these plants have died away, where the bottom's died away, there is some regrowth going in here now. The chemicals that are used to kill this bottom off have been approved, but they are always being tinkered with, and this just recently there's been a ban on one of the chemicals that they've used just to make things a little bit safer. And the new chemical is a fertilizer base, which actually burns the leaves off in sunshine, in the direct sunshine. So unless the sunshine is here, the chemical doesn't work quite so well. So you can see there is a little bit of green growth coming back in there, but this is all to be safer to the environment and to use less harmful chemicals. And you can see that is the case here, but it does lead to some, or not such a good control of those bottom leaves. Here we are on the hedgerow hops, and this is a row where we've got the Endeavour on the left hand side and the Sovereign on the right hand side. You can see both very different growth habits here. I never think that the hedgerow hops look as pretty as the tall hops at this time of year, because you've got all that old growth still on the netting there. But they're still growing on well. Look at those Sovereign on the right there. They're really putting out a lot of leaf and a lot of extra shoots. Very vigorous plants. The Endeavour on the left hand side, not quite so vigorous, but still plenty of potential in these. They look very well. Growing more vertical than outwards like the Sovereign. The Sovereign seems to be growing out into the rows a bit, and like we've done on the Target and the Pilgrim, tall varieties, at some stage when these plants get a little bit further up the net, the growers will come in and spray off those bottom growth so that they can concentrate the efforts up into the top. They can't do it too early on the dwarf hops, because on the hedgerow hops, because what will happen is you'll spray off the tops as well. You might get a bit of drift onto these sensitive growing tips at the top. The plant has to be woody enough at the bottom to be able to take the knock of the spray. So it has to be left a little bit longer before that can happen here in the hedgerow varieties.